fine. Say whatever you want, man. This is the internet. There's no FCC. You can say whatever you want, man.
Perfect.
We're here right now in sunny Sunnyvale, California. Kyle Kingsbury is here, and no more fucking radio voice. What's up, man? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, brother. How you been, man?
Beautiful, man. What's been up? What's new?
Fucking the world has opened up yet again, man. Lots of good shit's going on. We wife and I did ayahuasca not long ago. It was the first time that I've done it in over a year. So it's been a long time in between. Probably the longest since my first time. Usually it's been 2 to 4 times a year. So at the longest stretch, maybe 6 months, that kind of thing. So it was powerful. There was so many questions I had going into it, so many things that I was able to get from it. One of the things that I wanted to tell you about right off the bat was because we had this conversation before. I was giving you shit about having a shot when we were at this grass-fed burger joint.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and you were like, "Hey, man, what's up with that nicotine gum you got in your mouth? That can't be good for you."
Yeah.
So I was like, no. So I explained it the way I'd heard Rob Wolf explain it. So Rob Wolf, writer of the Paleo Solution, he has a Paleo Solution podcast. Great dude. He went on Ben Greenfield's show and was talking about how he had to speak for the Navy SEALs. And the 3 things they wanted him to talk about were training, which he thought, these guys know what the hell they're doing on training. I don't need to beat a dead horse there. And then nutrition, obviously he's pretty sound nutrition dude. And then nicotine. All right. That piqued his interest. He's like, well, what's the deal with nicotine? Now, I've done 10 tours for the troops, Goodwill tours with Armed Forces Entertainment. Everyone uses a form of nicotine, whether they're smoking cigarettes, doing dip, some type of chew or chaw or whatever, it's just a big part of it. So he looked into it and the commanding officer just said, hey, these guys are going to do it. What's the safest way to do it? What's the most effective way to do it? And what is it doing to them so they know exactly what's going to happen long-term? At least know this is the benefit and these are the pros and the cons going into it kind of thing. So he started just researching the hell out of it. And he found that even though there is a threshold you can cross where nicotine becomes toxic, for the most part, it's non-toxic. It's not a problem. It's all the other chemicals that tobacco companies add into it.
Okay.
So, disclaimer, if you're listening to this right now thinking Kingsbury's an idiot, now he's hooked on tobacco, or if you're thinking, I want to try that, just know it is still quite addictive. So,
yeah, that's the thing.
It is still quite addictive. But you know what? I'm addicted to coffee. I take breaks when I have Aya ceremonies, obviously, things like that. But I've loved this gum. You start with a 4 milligram piece and it makes your head spin. Then 3 days later, I'm going through a 4 milligram piece every hour like it's no big deal. Then a few weeks later, I'm doing 2 4 milligram pieces at the same time. And it just cracked me up because I was like, oh man, I can feel this pull, but it also turns you on like that. So why would you do this? That's the question. People who have used nootropics like modafinil, or even something that's not really a nootropic, just a plain old amphetamine like Adderall, right? That's going to give you that boost cognitively, that's going to give you energy, those kind of things. There are pros and cons to all these things. The greater the high, the greater the up, the greater the down, the greater the fall, right? And that's the same with anything, with exception of psychedelics, I would argue. But
fair enough.
So with what he was saying was, these guys get called out on missions sometimes at 2:30 at night. It's the middle of the night. If they pound a Red Bull and the mission ends an hour or 2 later, they're not going to go to sleep when they get back. And a lot of these guys have sleep issues. That's why Dr. Kirk Parsley was talking about. He was the Navy SEAL for a long time, retired, became a doctor for the Navy SEALs. There's a lot of guys that were hooked on Ambien and Valium and all these different things that weren't producing good sleep. They were just knocking them out. And so they weren't getting these deep restorative sleeps. They're not getting into all the stages of their sleep and they're not recovering. So one of the things that was cool and peculiar about nicotine was that it would give you that clean boost mentally, but it wears off after about an hour. So right when you get back, you can fall asleep, no problem.
All right, so it's actually interesting parallel here you're making. So you're saying with nicotine you're getting a clean boost, but you mentioned earlier when people are using things like Ambien or Xanax or something like this to knock out, they're not going through the stages of sleep. Or do you not actually go through REM sleep? What actually happens when you're on one of these?
Well, it's not. I couldn't I couldn't go into great detail on exactly which stages you miss or how much, maybe you go through all of them, but you just don't spend an adequate amount of time in each. Like it's the same thing. Like if you ever gotten really drunk and passed out, and even if you get 10 hours, you don't wake up restored, So there's no giant growth hormone secretion. There's all the hormone levels have been tested and they've shown. So when Dr. Kirk Parsley, and this is a side note, of course, just on sleep, when Dr. Kirk Parsley went into getting these guys off prescription medication and getting them back onto natural things. And he actually developed a sleep cocktail that works really well. He saw testosterone and growth hormone boost by 400% across the board with over 400 guys, men and women. So it was a big deal with getting these guys healthy again, So back to nicotine. Why would you use something like this? And nootropics outside of stimulants like modafinil and Adderall, which I really wouldn't even consider nootropic, they're brain boosting substances, right? Most of them started with the racetam family, which was started, I think, in the 70s with piracetam. Now there's different analogs like oxiracetam, aniracetam.
All right.
Every one of their jobs is to take choline and make more acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is what helps us with thought, cognition, memory, learning, all these things, creativity as well. So if you ever see like a comedian or an author chain smoking, that's their muse. They're trying to generate and get their mind sparked. That way they can get their creativity going and have more thought. So how does nicotine work? Nicotine works by fitting into the exact same receptors as acetylcholine.
Okay.
And then you bypass any need for... Now, I love racetams. I love alpha GPC as a form of choline that works really well synergistically with oxiracetam and the different racetams. So those are all great in their own right. But at the same time, nicotine gum just fits right into these places and really adds that spark.
So the concentration that you're going to receive by taking nicotine. So for example, like I take just a supplement of choline. Am I getting anything out of it? Is it mostly placebo? I mean,
no, you get something out of it, but that largely depends on what you take. Okay. So choline bitartrate is a choline salt. It adds to the choline, but it's relatively, it's on the low end of the scale. You know what I'm saying? It's like Smith machine squats or leg press versus barbell back squats.
An actual squat.
Yeah, it's just not the same, right? So you get some benefit, but not the whole benefit you could be getting from it.
Sure.
Alpha GPC is a product that's sold. It's created in our own bodies. It's a form of choline that's an antioxidant. It has a number of benefits, and it's more easily converted into things like acetylcholine. So if you spend a little bit more and you get alpha GPC, stack that with a racetam of your choosing, and a racetam's good for anxiety and things like that. It's more of a calm tuning in. Oxiracetam is more of a speedy tuning in. So somebody who's used to something like Adderall would do better with oxiracetam because it's going to give them that spark.
All right. And so for the nicotine, your options are basically, well, obviously like the traditional. So if we're in the South, we're dipping, or you got the cigarette going, which is obviously not the way you want to go. Combustion, bad chemicals. It's not the tobacco you're after. You're actually after the nicotine itself. So you have the option of, I say, like maybe gum or a transdermal, maybe a patch.
Yeah, I've used the patches. I put a patch on my balls.
What's the matter with you?
I put a patch on my balls, and man, that messed me up. After like 3 hours, I had to rip it off and do like Wim Hoff breathing for probably 40 minutes to prevent myself from throwing up. Like it was hardcore.
Any side effects down there, or just
no? Everything still works properly
still
unless
good,
I have like some tobacco kid or something. I don't know.
No.
Maybe it altered my the sperm's DNA. I don't know, but yeah. So transition forward. I drove down to LA for this XPT stuff, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I had a couple guys riding with me who had done Aya, and one of the guys was from Finland, and he said, "Hey man, I see you on that nicotine gum. You like nicotine?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I dabble now. I've never smoked cigarettes. I've never done dip, and this has been my gateway into this plant." And he was like, "Have you ever heard of snus?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I heard of snus."
It's a Swedish, like a Norwegian thing. Right?
Yeah. I saw this thing on Vice where they were talking about how it was like the safest form of chewing tobacco. It has far less chemicals and shit. Now, This is not to be confused with the American version, which has sugar and artificial sweeteners and all kinds of other nasty shit in it. But
Skull or something, right?
yeah, well, they have basically. I could, somebody who does dip and all the different forms, snuff and all that kind of stuff. There's hundreds of different types, but basically in some of these other countries like Sweden, like the Kraft Foods, for example, they can't even use artificial colors and things like that in their macaroni and cheese.
So it's not.
They use all natural products. Like aspartame, for example, is an artificial sweetener that's a neurotoxin.
Yep.
It's in all diet soda. It's in most chewing gums. It's just garbage. It's really bad for us.
I learned something as it pertains to aspartame in relation to traumatic brain injury.
Really?
Yes. There's apparently new research now, and it's going to be on a show, the one that comes right before this. I have this guy, Ernesto Medina. He's a chiropractor, but he sort of co-studies or in parallel, he studies sort of neurology or neuroscience as well, concussion specifically. So we went off for like 2 hours about concussions. Apparently, what's in artificial sweeteners can cause a chemical reconcussion type effect. If you have a concussion and it hasn't healed, you pound a bunch of Coke Zeros, Diet Cokes, whatever, you can actually go through the entire concussion chemically again without having another impact to your head. So it not just pushes healing out, it basically resets the concussion.
Damn, that makes perfect sense.
Right? Neurotoxin.
If it's a toxin, right, that makes perfect sense. You're going to injure the brain no differently. But yeah, so I forget where we're getting there with aspartame. So these countries have it outlawed outright, right? So their products are going to be much healthier in terms of what they're allowing to put in the tobacco products and things like that. So, and I'd seen this thing on Vice about it, and I was curious about it, but I wasn't into tobacco then.
Sure.
So this guy busts out a can and he's like, "Hey, I got this stuff if you want to try it."
All right.
Now, each one of these is 8 milligrams. So it's about the same as having two pieces of gum, 2 4-milligram pieces of gum. The difference is it's whole plant. It's not just nicotine added to gum.
Okay.
And in the whole plant, it's I talk about this with cannabis with people.
Okay.
When pharmaceutical companies wanted to make cannabis prescription, they made a product called Marinol.
I remember.
And they used synthetic THC, right? And then all the cancer patients who were using cannabis for pain mitigation and appetite, they were like, this stuff sucks. It's not the same as smoking the plant. And the reason for that now, we know through studying, is all the terpenes and all the other alkaloids play a factor in the synergy of the plant. It's not just THC that makes cannabis what it is, right? We've learned about cannabidiol. We've learned about CB1, CB2 receptors in the body.
Absolutely.
And everything else that goes in it now, CBG and all these other factors that they're really starting to dive into, THCA, they all have anti-inflammatory properties. The terpenes, much like citrus, there's D-limonene, right? And we use that now with organic house cleaners, and even when they get rid of termites and you see
that's right.
a good organic termite killer, they'll use D-limonene. Well, that's in all citrus fruit. So if you have some cannabis that smells kind of fruity and has that citrusy flavor to it, there's D-limonene in that, right? So you get all the antifungal, antiparasitic, antibacterial properties of that in the plant. So the whole plant, Mother Nature doesn't make mistakes. There's good stuff in there. When we fuck with it and we add in our own shit, that's when we make mistakes and make it wrong.
So in terms of the CBs, the THCA, CBDs, all this stuff, I usually cite projectcbd.org as sort of the place for people to go to start learning that otherwise just thought it was either hippie magic or just a bunch of potheads.
Snake oil, right?
Yeah, you crazy
it's a
kids.
cure-all, man.
Yeah, that think it's like a ShamWow or something, some as seen on TV crap, but it's not. There's real science. It's helping people. It's doing amazing things. I usually cite projectcbd.org just as a go-to place to sort of start to educate people, start to get people, okay, just like with the psychedelics, I usually cite MAPS. So I say maps.org. I say projectcbd.org. I probably want to pick your brain at the end of this before, at the end, I want you to plug your stuff, but I kind of want to, you give out so much information. So if you have any websites or your own.
Well, let me throw one in there too. Erowid.org, the Vaults of Erowid, EROWID.org is a fantastic place. They have every psychoactive known to man, from caffeine to nicotine to DMT to all of them, even methamphetamine, right? So if you want to know what someone's experiences are like, they have a giant. They have a plethora.
They have all journals, and there's the forums and everything.
Yeah. So you'll see, you can read trip reports, you can read drug interactions. So how's this going to work if I want to take ayahuasca and there's MAOIs in this plant? Okay. How's that going to interfere with my SSRIs, right? And that's a big one. Yeah. You can't have SSRIs for depression and take an MAOI like ayahuasca or a pharmaceutical MAOI, because there's a giant interaction there, and you can get serotonin overload in the brain, and that can be fatal. So that's really one of the major contraindications. But this site's phenomenal for figuring stuff out and having a good thing. So circling back and finishing on nicotine, I try this snoof stuff. It's absolutely phenomenal. And so I started reading into it. And one of the reasons why it's used in ayahuasca ceremonies, if you've ever done aya, they use mapacho, which is South American tobacco. And this has 20 times the nicotine content of North American tobacco. So that should mean 20 times the cancer, 20 times the problems, but it simply doesn't. There's shaman and taitas from the Amazon that have, lived well into their 90s and hundreds, and they use mapacho daily. It's a part of the ceremony, and it's a part of everyday life. And, because it's organic and there's no chemicals added to it, there's no issues.
So is this more of a dip, or is this at the beginning of some ceremonies? Allegedly, they have a cigarette type thing that they smoke.
Yeah, it's a cigarette. You don't necessarily inhale it. The metaphysical, spiritual side of things would be that you're going to puff on this and you're going to give the spirit of mapacho to your ancestors. Okay. So you don't inhale it. It's for everyone else. You still get a buzz from it. Obviously, it's entering your mouth. You're going to get some of those nicotine receptors firing and getting lit up. But there's a synergy with the plant. And the reason is, and I asked this in my eye ceremony, I was like, hey, is this gum good for me? What's the deal? And the answer I got was eat more gum. And it made me laugh, because it was just like this. I don't hear a voice in my head. I don't hear an answer from God. I don't hear anything. I just know the answer without words. So knowing the answer after I asked the question, eat more gum, it made me laugh. And I thought, all right, well, like that, just that easy. And then the next thing was now. So I was like, holy shit. So I look around, and this is after my second cup, and I had a couple pieces of gum right next to me. So I threw them in, and it was like liftoff.
Really?
Oh God, yes. It was amazing. And then right then I thought I was going to puke, but I didn't. So I went number 2 in the restroom, was able to purge, via the back door. And it really just set the ceremony forward. It was an incredible thing and then I realized right then, like, oh, there definitely is a synergy between these two plants. And in studying it further, tobacco itself has MAOIs on a very smaller level, on a much, much smaller level, but they definitely have a synergy together.
So it's my understanding anyway, the that DMT on its own through the drink, when you drink it in ayahuasca, if you just were to drink pure ayahuasca root just made into a tea, it wouldn't affect you the same way. And the MAOI it's an inhibitor that allows you to actually digest and process the ayahuasca, to let it get into your bloodstream without your brain, because everything can produce DMT. Like all organic things can produce it. It's a very simple molecule, but without the MAOI, it doesn't have the effect, right?
Stomach acid breaks it down. Okay. And that's one of the reasons, like, we produce DMT on our own. MAO, monoamine oxidase, is going to go in there and keep us from just tripping out as we walk throughout the day, right?
Okay.
So there's a reason we have this in us on a daily basis. Ayahuasca itself is multiple plants. It's typically 2 plants, Banisteriopsis caapi, which is the vine of the soul. The vine has the MAOI in it. The chacruna leaves, or chapoanga, those have DMT in it, and they're typically used to add the DMT in. And the plant in itself, both these plants combined, make up ayahuasca. So ayahuasca in and of itself has MAOI and DMT already in it.
And we sit here and we're talking about it a lot. And even though you're seeing it on TV more, you're seeing it in culture more, I don't think a lot of people know what it is beyond it's a form of DMT. It's a drug. It's a psychedelic. It's a drink. But what is it? Where does it come from? Just a quick background. They're not exactly sure. There's no carbon dating on this, but for thousands of years, this has been used in the Amazon. There are over
hundreds of thousands of different plants there. So to figure out how to combine the two of these, that's a mystery that science can't really solve, right? So how do these indigenous tribes people figure out that these two plants cooked for a very long time on relatively low heat, boiled down? I mean, you would take a giant cauldron, a giant pot of water full of both these plants and some other added mixtures depending on which part of the Amazon you're in, and that would boil down to a point where once it's strained and drank, you have about a Dixie cup. That's it. I mean, it tastes like pure bitter earth. It does not taste good. And about two, it's different for everyone. Some people can have 1 cup and it's lift off. For me, typically 2 or 3 cups is what gets me there. And once I break through, you go into a dreamlike state where you can have a visionary experience. I've mentioned before, just to give a quick example, my very first vision, I had become my wife, Natasha. Okay. And I was yelling at me, Kyle, and I relived every argument we've ever had in our relationship up to that point.
Oh, pleasant.
It was great. But I was saying things in a way as Natasha that Kyle would understand. Okay. So when I came out of this, I mean, I was just fucking floodgates, waterworks, crying my eyes out. Right. And I realized in every circumstance, the communication that was lost was just love. Like it was all love. It was all perspective. And that's made our relationship miles better, because now it's not that we don't argue or things like that, but I understand if we're not seeing eye to eye, there's just something missed. And that as long as I'm patient and I can keep my emotions under control, we'll figure this out and be able to work through it, and it's no problem. And that's been a huge boost just from all aspects of our relationship have improved because of that, because of one vision,
So your first time doing ayahuasca, you essentially learned empathy. Like really what it was, because I mean, I think most people don't spend much time thinking about others' feelings and what they're experiencing and their other perspectives than their own, because, it's a rat race for most people. Most people don't really think like, what could it be like being in their shoes? How could they take how I'm behaving right now? So to be able to do that, just, you sit in the woods for a few hours, you're puking your brains out, but you learned a very valuable life lesson that probably you're aware of, but it's a muscle you have to train, and empathy is this thing you have to be on it. You have to keep going. Like, okay,
But there's so many lessons like that, right? Like surrender is a big one. Letting go is a big one. And these are lessons. These are lessons in Eastern religion and spirituality that have been taught for far longer than I don't know if it's far longer than ayahuasca's been around, but maybe hand in hand, right? These are things we're supposed to be practicing in meditation when we find inner stillness and inner peace. Being quiet, setting aside time each day to actually get quiet and to not think about all the daily shit that's going on in our lives. Those are huge things that can allow for some of these intuitions and things to transpire and really make it more available for us to have empathy and to put ourselves in other people's shoes.
Absolutely.
But when we don't quiet our mind and we don't give ourselves time to be quiet, it's very hard to accomplish those things, right? Yeah. I mean, there are ways, and I say this,
sure,
there are ways to get there without ayahuasca, without psychedelics. I feel that these are great tools and that they're great ways to kind of fast forward and accelerate the learning process. And they've been amazing tools for myself, but there are other ways to get there without them for people that maybe they can't make it to the Amazon or they don't have access to these things. It just takes, a little bit more diligence, a little bit more patience, and a lot more work. You really got to work to get to these places where you can connect and understand and really just quiet your own mind.
And I mean, sort of disclaimer, this isn't a recreational drug. It's nothing like that at all. What he's describing is something that's done in ceremony. It's part of the Santo Daime religion in Brazil that I think they have churches here now in the United States.
Yeah, they just had one in Washington that got for federal recognition. So they're completely legal to do.
So it is a sacrament in the Daime, Santo Daime religion. So this isn't just, Kyle sitting around his apartment or his house or whatever, just drinking this thing and tripping balls and running around the kitchen like a crazy person. These are...
And that's the thing too, though. There's people ask, like, is it addictive and things like that. It's fucking hard. It's really, really hard. It tastes like shit, and you puke violently. Not every time, but a lot of the time you puke violently. You can shit your brains out. I've never shit my pants in ceremony. I've shit my pants from MCT oil, but I haven't shit my pants in ceremony. Generally, you have the wherewithal to ask the guide or the shaman to help you to the restroom, and then you're good to go. But yeah, man, it's really tough. It's really hard. It's not something that I look forward to. I look forward to it from knowing what it can do for me, knowing how it can transform me, knowing that I can have questions answered. And other people will say, like, that's not God. That's not a spirit of ayahuasca. That's not your dead relative talking to you. That's not any of these things. That's all in your brain, and you're creating these visions, and you're getting it. Now, my argument is, it doesn't fucking matter. You're splitting hairs. It doesn't matter if it's in me. It doesn't matter if it's some form of really intelligent consciousness outside of me, because at the end of the day, I'm getting something from it. I'm getting a lot from it. And I'm not the only one. And you can check that out on the vaultsofaroid.org. You can see the trip reports and see how transformative it is. And yeah, so in a roundabout way, we kind of got into the ayahuasca ceremony from the nicotine standpoint. But if anything, that just strengthened my nicotine habit by asking these questions in the Aya ceremony. So I joke with Clint, you can see me on camera now. If my face looks a little fat, it's because I got a snooze in the cheek right now. So that's why I was checking with you to see like if it was super noticeable. They're relatively small. Come in a box like this.
It's like a Copenhagen thing, right?
Yeah. Now,
they're little pouches, or
right?
no?
Yeah. Right when he showed it to me, I was like, "All right, buddy, you had me at rape."
What?
Now I'm sure it's not pronounced that way in Sweden, but yeah, it's like Goldberg's rape or rape or some shit like that.
Gothenburg.
Yeah, these little guys go in there and then your brain turns on. So,
I guess you're not coming into it fresh since you already have the experience with the gum. And is there a significant, because of the plant material, is it less potent? Is there more of a buzz, so to speak, like than the actual gum, or which is stronger to you?
Oh, the snus is 100 times stronger.
Is it?
Just like the mapacho is. I mean, if you smoke mapacho in ceremony, it hits you. It hits you hard. Like and you can. I mean, there's no doubt it's stronger. There's no doubt it's stronger. But like I was saying with cannabis, you're talking about now whole plant. So you get all these other things that are going on and helping it work. And from what I've read online, there are some MAOIs on a smaller level which allow the nicotine to work longer.
Oh, wow.
And so there's a little synergy within its own self, right?
So the general thing was everyone smoked cigarettes back in the 50s. It was good for you, whatever. And then obviously there's tar in it, so it's bad for you, cancer, throat cancer, and you're going to have a lot of people that are going to pop up and say, this person was affected by this type of smoking and this type of lung cancer, and that's what it's not what he's talking about. It isn't smoking cigarettes. Yes, nicotine is addictive.
Well, there's so many chemicals added to all this, even just chew. Like, why wouldn't you just do chewing tobacco then? Well, there's a ton of chemicals added to that. There's a ton of chemicals added to a lot of these things because they're not well regulated. The regulators that are supposed to help, that are supposed to be on our side and say, this is what's healthy and this is acceptable. All it takes is a few $1 million coming in from lobbyists and then, okay, we can turn a blind eye to that. I mean, why do you think aspartame is in diet soda? It's not because it's good for us. It's not. There are healthy alternatives. Stevia is awesome. Erythritol is awesome. Xylitol is awesome. All these plant-based sweeteners, they work just great. They're just not as, they're a little bit more expensive because they come from plants. They can't be made in a lab. And that's just what it boils down to. It boils down to money.
So what I like to do, and I'll laugh. I did this once on camera. I walked through a pharmacy with a 3-letter acronym that might be CVS. I don't know, allegedly. Walgreens, same thing, man. They're all the same.
Yeah.
And you walk down each and every aisle and just sort of pick out. So think of like what the nature of this place is supposed to be, right? It's this federally regulated place that's supposed to make you better, right? It's pharmacy. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is where you get medicine. So you walk down each and every aisle, and which do you think is the biggest aisle at CVS right here? Allegedly, that place.
No, I'm not sure.
It's liquor, followed by soda, followed by chips and processed food, and then I think there's, the big family planning type. There's tons of diapers and stuff. Before you actually get to any sort of medicine, well, when you actually get to the medicine, it's loaded with high fructose corn syrup and all kinds of crazy preservatives, even in the children's vitamins.
Dude, they've got fucking dyes in children's cough syrup and children's, cough drops and things like that, like red and yellow and blue food coloring and shit like that. It's like there's just no reason for these to be in there. And then, well, no, we've done the studies and it's safe. Bullshit, man. Well, you're adding chemicals in there that are not found in nature, and you're putting them in a young person's body who doesn't have a fully formed brain, who doesn't have a fully formed immune system, who's fucking being attacked constantly. Everything on this planet wants to eat itself. Everything on this planet is eating something else. Life takes life. And our bodies are working around the clock to fend off shit. And now you're going to add in just some random shit created in a lab and think that's not going to cause any systems to go haywire. It's all one system.
Well, yeah, there's no money in cures, right? So everything's about treatments. So even the vaccine, the flu shot came up. Everybody's supposed to go get a flu shot. Did you get a flu shot?
Fuck no. I just had a conversation with a friend about this, and I don't want to get too much into vaccines because when I did that on Facebook, there was quite a bit of backlash. But let's just talk the flu shot. When I was going through EMT school a few years ago, you had to have every vaccine had to be updated, and I had to have multiple flu shots.
Yep.
That year I had 2 flu shots. That year I had the flu. Well, why did that happen? So I looked into it. There are at least 12 known strains of flu. The flu shot covers 3 of them. So at fucking best, you're getting a quarter of the protection you need from it, right? On top of that, vaccines have, especially the most common vaccines, like the flu vaccine, they have preservatives. Preservatives that aren't necessarily well tolerated. They've taken a lot of the mercury out, but they have, instead of methylmercury, ethylmercury, thimerosal, things like this that are not well tolerated. Your body does not break it down and eliminate it quickly. Aluminum, formaldehyde, you name it. There's all sorts of shit in there that shouldn't be in there. So what does that do? That weakens the immune system, and that invites more fucking shit to come in and make you sick.
So I actually researched this week on the mercury content of the flu shot because they have them. They were giving them out for free over at the office in Palo Alto there, and I wanted to look it up and see what the CDC said, what's actually in them, and it turns out they're the individually dosed ones, like the single shot syringes, or
instead of a multi-dose vial, right? So they're going to have less, right?
Well, they say there's none in those, but or not a significant amount. But the shared vial that they're drawing multiple shots from, they do have the mercury.
Mm-hmm. And what makes more money? A small ampule that's individually packaged,
sure,
or a large vial that they can take multiple shots from?
Well, obviously,
it's packaging, right? It's not fucking rocket science. The multi-dose vial makes more money because there's less packaging,
yep,
and they can dose 10 people with 1 bottle instead of 1 for 1, right? So it's encouraged to do that from a financial standpoint, right? And then, yeah, I mean, that's a fucking rabbit hole that I really don't want. I mean, it's a big discussion, obviously. And I've said this before. I've been vaccinated multiple times. Vaccines save lives. Vaccines save lives. I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is, can they be made better? Fuck yes, they can be made better. They can be made better. They can be made with way less harmful shit in there, and they can still get the job done.
Well, the flu shot, basically, the way it works, to people that don't know, and I'm probably going to get backlash, I'll be corrected on this, which is fine. I'm fine if I'm wrong. You guys can be right and just tell me I'm wrong, but you might be wrong too. What I understand is basically they put 3, that they try to figure out which 3 of these strains of the flu or of influenza are going to pop up for a particular, calendar year. And they're just drawn from a hat, or there's some, I mean, the way I've heard, or that I've learned about it, is basically it's a little bit less than predicting the weather in terms of accuracy, but, better chance than, so maybe predicting an earthquake, for example. Yeah. Like they just say, of these potential 12 or however many strains there are known to be active in terms of flu, they're just picking 3, and they have some information, but it's a guess. And there have been times where you still are going to get sick because you're not inoculating or you're not vaccinating against those, because you're basically taking dead food.
But sickness, that's the other thing too. Sickness does not happen. Disease does not happen to a healthy person. Okay? If your immune system's strong and you're getting adequate sleep and you're putting the right foods in your body and all these things are going on. I know plenty of people that have not been sick for 5 years, 10 years. Why does that happen? Is it just that they have the genetic roll of the dice, that they're perfect and nothing can get to them? No, it's because they put fucking good things in their body and they take care of themselves. I get sick. I've been sick more like 5 times in the last 6 months. Every weekend I go to work, I get what? 3 hours of sleep because I work till 3:30 a.m. My little son gets me up at 6:30 a.m. And I know that when the weekend comes, my immune system's going to be shit. So it's just kind of how it goes. But if you don't work night shifts, if you have the ability to get to bed on time around 10 p.m. each night and get 8 hours of sleep or whatever you need, it's different for everyone. Some people do better with 7, whatever. Point is, adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and a proper movement and training program, and you're going to be far better off than anything that's going to vaccinate you from anything.
Absolutely. I mean, the rest is key. As you just mentioned earlier, the study that was done where the testosterone levels, skyrocketed basically with the
if you want to check that out, look up Dr. Kirk Parsley. He's got a website. He's been on Rob Wolf's podcast a number of times. He's been on a ton of podcasts. So if you just search iTunes for Dr. Kirk Parsley, you just listen to this guy talk, and you'll understand the importance of sleep in an hour. You'll know immediately what it means, and all these things. He's done studies on these guys that are funded by the U.S. government, and as the Navy SEAL doctor, he had all these labs done in his own. He was running his own experiments basically, and saw the magic happen seamlessly overnight by getting rid of Ambien and these things that don't allow for good quality sleep.
Yeah, I know from experience with some of the sleep aids, I mean, prescription or not, you take it, you wake up the next day and you're just not where you should be. You're dragging ass. You don't feel like you rested. You technically were unconscious, but you don't feel like you slept. You feel groggy. It takes a while to get going. I mean,
a lot of the times that drug doesn't just turn off, right? It's not like you wake up when your alarm wakes up and then it's out of your system. It's still going strong. That's half the grogginess, is you fighting through this thing that's making you chemically tired, right?
You ever seen somebody on Ambien or anything sleepwalk?
No, I've heard about people taking Ambien and trying to stay up and bone. They had a little thing on that, and
it's like,
what was that? Role models?
The Ambien game.
They're trying to. Paul Rudd was, or not Paul Rudd. Sean William Scott Stifler was trying to do that with a chick at the camping trip. Never tried that one. I've tried many drugs, but I've never tried that one.
So watching somebody Ambien sleepwalk, I know someone that Ambien gets up in the middle of the night and makes sleep makes pasta, like sleep makes entire meals, full meals.
Damn.
Just wakes up in a complete zombified state. Walks.
Do they put them back into? Do they do like meal prep where they got the little Tupperwares out and they put it and label it for the week, and this is Monday night's meal, Tuesday night's meal?
I've seen it. Makes an entire thing of pasta, meatballs, sauce, everything, sits there and kills the whole thing, goes right back to bed.
Wow.
I've seen the other one with the bowl of ice cream on the chest. Just like, where the fuck did this come from? It's bad. I've heard of people. I know of people that sleep drove and then just woke up, parked behind a car, just not knowing what to think, like thinking they're about to rear end somebody, but they were just pulled over, parked, just had no idea they got to their car. Damn. No idea at all. That's Ambien. And what's the other one? I've heard of people on Xanax doing similar. So that's a lot of people use that, both of them, to knock out.
I used Xanax in college and Valium, and I really felt like Xanax was way stronger of the two. Not even close. And there was plenty of times where, it's just not a good thing, man. I went down the rabbit hole there. That was not a good thing. And you know what? In talking about these, we're talking about a laundry list of drugs here. I think I heard Ari Shaffir talk about this once, and this really resonated with me. He saw a homeless man. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he saw a homeless man and he felt empathy for the guy. He felt sorry for the guy because he knew the guy was he was cracked out on something, whether it was meth or whatever. I mean, he was talking to himself. He's likely not just schizo, likely, had some issues going on, drug related. And what he thought was, this guy was just introduced to the wrong drugs. This guy was just introduced to the wrong thing, and he got caught up in it, and now his life is here. As opposed to, had he been given psilocybin mushrooms or LSD or ayahuasca or something like that, it could have opened him up and transformed him in a way that was positive. And not in a now, don't get me wrong, there's a right way and a wrong way to do anything. Not everyone's experience with psychedelics is good. Everyone will tell you about the time where they ate a bunch of mushrooms while they were drinking with their buddies in high school at a house party, and then shit went haywire. And guess what? That's not the right way to do it.
No.
Setting, all these things play a factor. Your mindset going into it, who you're with, the environment, what you want to get from it, setting an intention and understanding like, hey, these are things I want to go over. These are things that I want answers on. All those make a huge difference when you get to that trouble spot. But if it's just a party thing, hey, I'm going to try this and have a good time. That too has a right way and a wrong way. You have to be comfortable. You have to know these things can take you on a journey and be okay with that. So, but yeah, I understood that. I really like when Ari brought that up because it's true. A lot of people that have drug problems, it's the wrong drug that makes it the drug problem.
I feel that having this word in our vocabulary does a lot of people, and the sort of both inside and outside the legal system, as well as just people trying to help from MAPS, from the Project CBD people. I feel like the word and its use being so broad and covering so many things really does everyone a grand disservice, because it's this generic word that means so many different things to so many different people.
And boy, does it have a bad connotation.
I mean,
if you're in your
really
30s,
does.
if you're in your 30s right now, you remember the DARE program.
Nancy Reagan.
You grow up, you're told, and then everyone remembers the iron skillet. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs, right? Crack that egg, throw it in there.
Any questions?
Yeah. So it's easy to lump things in there, and then the propaganda is much easier just to float it across the board on everything, right? But we now know cannabis is fucking not only one of the safest materials known to Earth, but it has tremendous potential for healing and helping people. Even on the brain, and I love this, at UCSF down the street from us, University of California, San Francisco, there's a Japanese doctor who was using cannabis for pain with cancer patients.
Okay.
And they were reporting that they loved it. Even if they still had to take opiates, there was a synergy with the opiates, and it was helping the opiates work better with less. So they didn't have to take as many pills, and cannabis would prolong the effects of those pills, and then they would get their pain mitigation. So knowing the propaganda that cannabis makes you dumb and that you have memory loss and these kind of things, he wanted to study it on the brain just to verify. And what he found was THC specifically is a neuroprotectant, and it shows many properties of healing within the brain. It also clears out amyloid plaques in the brain. So what are the diseases that have problems with amyloid plaques? Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's all come from amyloid plaque buildup within the brain. And now he's got funding to start studying cannabis, specifically THC, high THC cannabis, on how it can heal the brain and clear out amyloid plaques for these diseases just mentioned. So it's a big, big deal.
So there's a wing of maybe specialists or people that have the belief inside the medical community that Alzheimer's is akin to stage 3 diabetes, as diet tends to have this effect in terms of the neurotoxicity with the sugar and all this stuff. Somehow the two are related.
Yeah. So this was discussed in Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter.
Okay.
Fantastic book. I recommend everyone read it. And I still eat rice. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like you read one book and you're going to change your diet for the rest of your life, but it's about management, right? So another thing that we were force fed when we were kids was this food pyramid, right? So 6 to 8 servings of grains, 3 to 4 servings of fruit, 2 to 3 servings of vegetables, a couple servings of meat, 1 serving of dairy, and then salt at the top, right? So, and oils. And basically that was given to us because of subsidies for grain products that could last. Like, this is a way the government thought we could end hunger, was because we could store grains year round. So if we had a bad season with fresh fruits and vegetables, that wouldn't matter because our corn supply and our wheat supply was high. So, but these aren't well tolerated foods. And if you read anything, whether you're into paleo eating or not, what do you do on an elimination diet? You eliminate grains, you eliminate dairy, you eliminate anything that could cause some type of disruption within the gut. And then you can add those things back in later, right? So there's a lot of science behind that, and there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, myself included. That's how I figured out I had a gluten intolerance, was just simply eliminating it for 4 weeks and then adding it back in. All of a sudden I couldn't breathe out of my nose. My stomach hurt. I had a ton of gas. So yes, I have a gluten intolerance. No blood work necessary. But what Perlmutter went into was, because of the way we eat, because of the way we snack, because of the fact that we are constantly inundating ourselves with food, and specifically carbohydrates, whether they're complex carbohydrates or not, we start to lose our insulin sensitivity. So you eat carbohydrates, pancreas kicks out insulin, that drives it into the muscles. But once you're full of glycogen, your muscles are full. And if you're not working out because you're sedentary and you're working at a desk all day long, now your body starts to tone that down. It starts to say, hey, we can't utilize this. So we start to build belly fat, visceral fat, those kind of things. And over time, we won't be able to utilize insulin as well to carry these things out. So if we have chronically high blood sugar, genetics plays a factor in this. Genetics, for me, might say I get type 2 diabetes. Genetics for you might say you get type 3 diabetes or Alzheimer's, right?
Sure.
But those are going to happen because of that similar lifestyle choice of not doing shit each day and then having way too many carbohydrates. So I've spoken quite a bit about the ketogenic diet, low carb, those kind of things. I think that's a great tool. It's not something I do year round, just like I don't fast year round. But I also think fasting is a great tool, and it's something that we've used for as long as humans have been around. We've been fasting, even without religion, even without, different times a year that it's supposed to happen. There were, before grocery stores, before we had access, before we had refrigeration, we just went without food. It was a natural part of our existence, right? So I think that's really one of the ways our bodies evolved, was to have this cleaning house. Like we run without food, we got a little water, and then all of a sudden the body has the ability to restore itself. And it will intelligently do so. And science shows this now. It's going to eat away old immune cells. If you think of a workforce, and you've got a workforce working for your immune system, they range in age. You've got young guys fresh out of college, you've got middle-aged, and then you've got old timers that have been just stuck in the game and they don't want to retire.
Sure.
But fasting helps you retire those old farts. Fasting will eat away all the old workers, all the old immune cells, and then you'll secrete stem cells from the bones, and those guys will make brand new ones. So you'll have a fresh new army working for your immune system and working for your body. And there's just so many good things in coming out now with what we have. This is the information age. We have so much on our table, right? Oh, I read this diet. I read that diet. I read that diet. I tried this. I tried that. There's a lot of shit to decipher and try to figure out what works and what doesn't work. The point is, read, try, do. Don't just fucking take someone's word for it.
Absolutely.
Right? Read a book, try to adopt some of the ideas. And if you feel better in doing those things, then continue on with that, right? Then you've learned something. If you feel like shit trying something and you stick it out long enough, like people try the ketogenic diet for 2 weeks and say it didn't work. Well, did you test your blood? No. Did you only went 2 weeks? Well, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to really become keto adapted. So if you're going to try anything, give it a real shot. And then from there, you can decide for yourself if it works for you or not, because everyone's different. There is no one size fits all for anyone in life, not for medicine, not for drugs, not for food, not for fasting, not for anything. Even among men and women, it's a big deal for women to go without carbohydrates for a long time or to fast. It can fuck with their reproductive, right?
Sure.
The body is intelligent. And if a female's body feels like they're lacking certain things, that's not an environment suitable to create life inside, right? So it can be hard to become pregnant if there's a lack of food, if there's a lack of carbohydrates, or if there's just a lack of overall nutrition. One of the big things they talk about, when they're looking at obese people is that they are overfed and undernourished. You have a surplus of things, but their body is starving for the micronutrients. They're so, everyone's focused on macros, and we got that from 1980s bodybuilding. These are the protein, the carbs, the fats that you need to have, and this is the diet you need to eat. And they pay no attention to micronutrients, phytonutrients, colors, trying to pick a vegetable from every different color spectrum throughout the week. One night you're having red cabbage, the next night you're having kale, the next day you're having carrots, the next day you're having yams. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so much more to that we'll know in 10, 20 years exactly what these different things do. But now we just know that's fucking good eating. That's healthy, right? So making that apart and then figuring out how to make those things edible. When I was a kid, we had like canned green beans or frozen Jolly Green Giant shit, and I couldn't stand it. But now we make organic broccolini with some sea salt and a little grass-fed butter, and I gobble it down. My son, he's 16 months old. He loves it. I remember when my sister was 5, she was forced to eat broccoli. Man, I was like, you better finish that broccoli. And she swallows it and then projectile vomit it on the table. And it was great. And he was like, okay, I'm sorry. You'll never have to eat broccoli again. But you can make shit taste good, Like everyone has a palate that can be, it's really just about how you prep it and how you make things work. You know what I'm saying? But that takes effort. It takes cooking your own food. It takes making something you like. And I never liked Brussels sprouts, but the second I had that as a side dish, bacon Brussels sprouts,
oh, that's really good.
I was like, fuck, man, this is awesome stuff, right? Now I want to make this. Now I can make it.
Broccoli's that's easily my favorite vegetable.
It's hands down. Broccolini and broccolette are just, and even regular broccoli, but I love broccolette. And now being in California, we are absolutely spoiled. We can go into Costco and they've got giant, and obviously people will be like, hey, you got to shop local and go to your farmer's market. We shop at farmer's markets. I love that. But if I want to buy something in bulk for cheap that's still organic, Costco in California in the Bay Area has a giant selection. So I can get a huge bag of baby kale. I can get a huge bag of broccolette that's organic. Really cheap, 8 avocados, organic avocados, those kind of things. So we there's a lot to that. If you're in a space that doesn't necessarily have those options, then it makes a lot more sense to really dive in, know your farmers, go to the farmers markets. And if you're going to spend a little bit more, it's worth it, because not only are you going to get more nutrition out of that, but you're also going to get less of the toxic shit that goes along with conventionally made food.
Yep. What do they have over there? A lot of the Hawaiians like Costco because, you can buy in bulk, but they have that poke.
Hell yeah, dude.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, they have that now, and they've got a lot of gluten-free sauces that they put on there.
It's really good.
Poke is amazing.
That's what I had, I think, last night and then 2 nights before that for dinner. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's a spot in Cupertino that opened up that has, like, you can choose organic greens. So if I'm going low carb, I'll just get it on the organic greens. If I'm going with carbs, I'll get the sushi rice with it. But they've got all kinds of selections: scallops, shrimp, every type of fish. It's phenomenal, and it's all wild caught too. So even the salmon's wild caught, Alaskan salmon. None of this farmed bullshit from the Atlantic.
Are you going to the one over by right by Elephant Bar, or do you go to the one by Hollenbeck?
It's a little further south, 85 and De Anza.
Go fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bomb, dude.
I was there last night. That's where I went last night.
I hit it up. It's right by my sister's place, so I hit it up on the way over there.
I get 2 extra scoops with that large bowl, and I tell them go easy. If I do rice at all, I tell them go easy. And they use
real crab. It's not an imitation crab. So if you get the scoop of the crab, I was like, this tastes really sweet, like real crab. And I looked up, and they're like, we use only real crab for our crab mix.
Because I never order the shredded crab anywhere, that any sushi place ever, because it's usually just shredded pollock with a shitload of mayonnaise, and I can't do it.
All that GMO soy in the mayo.
Oh, it's so gross.
Yeah.
So now I don't trust it anywhere. So even when, like, now you say that, I'll try it, but I usually just get the seaweed salad and, like, abundance in there.
Yeah, seaweed salad is awesome.
It's like that with the poke. It's funny. There's actually a place in the other one in Cupertino, off of Stevens Creek. It's okay. No. I'm sorry. This is the one off Hollenbeck. They actually put hot Cheetos in there as a topping. So it has like a crunch to
That
it.
cracks me up.
Of like,
The last time I had Cheetos, it was after a wedding in Tahoe. It was maybe a year or two ago.
all right.
And they had one of my friends was dipping hot Cheetos into cream cheese.
Okay.
And I was like, what is this? And she's like, you got to try one. I know you don't eat this shit, but just try one. And I tried it and I was like, this is fucking amazing. I can see how easily this would be like someone's favorite go-to snack.
Oh, that sounds like a tremendous stoner food.
It is.
The other one that I learned about was the little Hawaiian rolls.
Mm-hmm.
A little one toasted with cream cheese and Cool Ranch Dorito on it.
Oh God.
And it's really good.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've had those. I can't willingly or knowingly consume gluten anymore just because I know exactly what it's doing to me. If you don't have a gluten intolerance, disregard. You know what I'm saying? It's still not great for you, but it's not fucking you up the way it's fucking me up. So when I talk the way that I speak about gluten, it's because it's a personal thing. You know, if you had a dairy intolerance and you were throwing caution to the wind because you love cheese, big fucking mistake.
Yeah.
You don't know what that's doing to you. I mean, it's really just wreaking havoc. And anytime you terrorize the gut and the intestinal wall, you're just opening up all these invaders to come in. You're putting so much more stress on your system. And like I said, it's all one system. So you put stress on the gut, you got leaky gut. Now your body's inflammation goes up. It's dealing with stuff, unbroken down food particles. It's constantly got to send out. You create a host of food allergies you wouldn't normally have. And your immune system's shot because it's spent working on things it shouldn't be working on, right?
And that's when it gets worse. You start developing ulcers. You hear people like diverticulitis. It just starts this way, what you're describing. So, yeah, you got to go easy on.
Fucking take care of yourself. Doesn't mean I don't have a cheat meal, but it means I cheat smart, right?
Sure.
So, like, I tell a lot of people, like, just fucking make your own cheat meal. You know, if you pick the ingredients and you make it yourself, it's got to be way healthier than if you go to some McDonald's or anything else to get it, right?
Unless you go to, maybe one of these factory farm grocery stores, you probably want to pick good ingredients too.
Yeah, of course. That's a given when I'm talking about food for the most part. You know,
it doesn't have to cost what people think it does. I know people are up in arms saying, Whole Foods or even Sprouts is really expensive.
Here's what I love though. Somebody said this. You can spend more on food now, or you can spend way more on disease later.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And you think about it, it's not just cost for cost, because what you lose when you have disease is far more than money. You lose far more than money. You lose your health. You lose your time. You lose your ability to move. You lose your fucking feeling, right? You lose this good feeling you have. I mean, we all should be operating optimally, and we should fucking wake up with, guys should wake up with hard boners. You should fucking want to attack the day. You should feel good. You should laugh. You should not feel messed up because you put in, as Rogan says, you're entertaining your mouth, right? It's just this mouth entertainment of, oh, when's the next thing that I can put in my mouth that's going to feel good? No, this is about how you sustain yourself. And that has either the best consequences or the worst consequences.
Okay, this sounds like a fake name, but there's a Dr. Harry Fish. He's like a men's health doctor. He used to have a radio show on Sirius XM on channel 101. And he basically says the penis is it's basically the dipstick or the barometer of your overall vascular heart health. So guys with ED, this could be a heart thing. It's because somehow there's blood is not flowing as it should. So people with erectile dysfunction, like this could be sort of the precursor to a larger heart issue, or it could be a telltale sign you might have something wrong with your heart, or you might want to get a checkup. And he talks a lot about low testosterone in patients and not going right to TRT, looking at other ways. Well, first of all, let's put you on a diet. You got to bring the weight down, because it's a lot of times it's cause and effect, and chicken and the egg, and which caused which. But ultimately,
and that's why you can't. It's hard to just say this is my symptom, fix it, right? It's all one system.
Yeah.
Work towards total health. In fucking immerse yourself in it. Don't just listen to a podcast and think, all right, I learned everything I need to know on the subject. Listen to the podcast. If something piques your interest, then go buy a book, then go read more online, then go fucking just dive into it and make that your passion. And obviously people got shit going on. I got a kid. I think we got another one on the way.
Oh, wow.
Hey-o. You know what I'm saying? People are busy. We got busy lives. We got mortgages to pay. We got shit going on. I get it. But now with Audible and with podcasting, you can listen to things while you drive. And with Kindle, right from my iPhone 6 Plus, I can freaking read books and it doesn't hurt my eyes anymore because my phone is gigantic, right? It's the right size for me to be able to read something without hurting my eyes. And then I'm cool. Like I can digest and process more information in an easier way. And it's $10 a book on Kindle instead of, 25, 30, right? So there's really no more excuses for people not spending the time, to make their quality of lives go up. And that's something that I really give credit to fighting for, was knowing when I had at some point, you got a fight signed, 8 weeks from now, this guy's going to try to take my head off. What my pie chart looks like for time management during the day makes a big difference.
Sure.
And then if you extrapolate that out every day for the course of the 8 weeks, or even over the course of the year, it makes a big difference if I spend 4 hours watching the Kardashians, or if I spend, an hour in napping, and then another 30-minute meditation, and then an hour of reading, and then an hour of some type of active recovery like yoga or breath work or cold baths, sauna, you fucking name it. There's things you can do with your time that are not only going to make you feel good in the immediate, but they're going to help you in the long run, right?
Absolutely. The one thing I kind of learned from the corporate world is sort of time management and the value of being able to estimate your time sort of accurately. This is this intangible skill. When you say something's going to take 6 weeks and it takes 8, it's like, this fucking guy. But if you say it's going to take 2 hours and it takes an hour and a half, you're a hero, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, for my personal life, I'd sort of take some of these same principles and try to apply it to sort of accomplishing goals that I have, or just setting out my week. Every basically Monday and Friday, or Sunday and Friday, whatever, I'm trying to look at, like, what am I trying to accomplish this week? How much time do I have? I use the Google Calendar, the calendar thing on my iPhone for everything. Everything from I'm teaching jujitsu to I'm taking a jujitsu class, all my meetings in between and doing this. And I plan out my day and I know how much time I have to work with, even at the end of the day. And then when it's time to shut everything off, I don't do iPhone in bed. I don't have TV in bed. It's time to shut everything off. When it starts to, get dark, I like to switch my phone to grayscale to sort of, get the sensory overload, basically.
Yeah, turn off that blue light.
Yeah,
exactly. So help with melatonin production, all that.
Because when it's time for sleep, it's time for sleep. And that's as important as the stuff I'm doing today, because my tomorrow is based on a good sleep today. So I try to plan my entire week. And if I have a large project, let's say like I want to launch a podcast for the YouTube channel, if you just say that out loud, it's like, that's a lot of stuff. Like, what do you do first? I put down every single task that's there, and I'm like, what do I need for each one? Okay, how much time is it going to take? Do I need someone's help for this? And is there a cost? Like, I try to branch it all down into, like, I basically make project plans, even for my personal stuff. I'm not a project manager by trade at all, but it's stuff I've learned along the way, how people succeed against like really large, because if you just say, I'm going to do some like large task, it can be scary and daunting, and people don't do them. Yeah. So in your personal life, time management, planning, taking a half hour with your coffee on Friday morning or Sunday morning, like, what did I accomplish this week? What didn't I? What did I learn?
Yeah. And just fucking chip away at it, right?
Exactly.
Just chip away at it. If it's a fucking big thing, do baby steps. I love the old football quote. Yard by yard, life is hard. Inch by inch, life's a cinch.
Sure.
Right? Just fucking take an inch out of that book, Just fucking get a chapter or get a half a chapter, whatever it is. And as you chip away at that over time, then you finish your first. Then I had a goal 3 years ago that I wanted to finish 10 books in a year. Then I crushed it. Next year it was, let me finish 1 book a month. And now it's multiple books a month. My biggest problem now is, by doing more podcasts and connecting to really intelligent, like-minded individuals, and I'm not saying that I'm really intelligent. I mean, people that are pushing the envelope for things that I give a fuck about, right?
Sure.
They're pushing the envelope for health, for meditation, for longevity, for any of these things that I find inspiring or useful for my quality of life. I want to dive in. So now my problem isn't can I finish a book a month? It's that I have a freaking stack of books that I got to read, and they're all great. You know, there was a time where I'd open a book and I get a couple chapters in and think, yeah, this book sucks. It's not for me. But I can't remember the last time I opened a book and didn't want to finish it. Like just start to finish, great books. So there is great information out there, and you just got to dive in, man. You got to make it your passion and really, really start to put this stuff into practice, because it does have a dramatic impact, not only on you, but I mean, shit, if I feel better, I'm a better husband. If I feel better, I'm a better dad. You know, and that's really how you start to impact the world in a better way, is just by being a better person for yourself and then for those around you. And then that just scales out.
It's a simple set of questions like, do you want to be happier? Do you want a better life? Do you think someone's going to give you a better life that isn't you? No, it's your responsibility. Your emotions are your responsibility, which means your happiness is your responsibility. And Kyle's giving you the steps right now. If you listen to this thing again, he has told you step by step what you can do to make your life better now. And it comes down to feeling better now. It comes down to improving yourself, like looking at yourself in the mirror honestly and saying, what do I need? And Kyle said, I needed knowledge. So he reads more. Now he can't find it. It went from not being able to read a book without getting bored halfway through to now he's got a stack of books and he just wants the knowledge out of every page. So, I mean, this is how you do it. This is how you make yourself better. You step up, say like, could I do more? Could I have done more?
And what's more important to you, how you feel or being fucking entertained by, silly people on the television? And it's not to say that I don't watch TV. I like Game of Thrones. I loved The Night Of. I thought that was an awesome TV show.
Okay.
We'll probably start Stranger Things here coming up. I hear that good things about that.
It's pretty cool.
We watch good movies. I love good movies. You know, occasionally they suck, but it's whatever. There's still entertainment there, but that's the small piece. If I made the food pyramid for my time, you know, the 6 to 8 servings that I'm getting each day, those are the things, the bulk of what I need each day. That's the working out. That's the meditation. That's the breath work. That's the reading and the learning, right? And then at the very top, the little thing they used to say, salt and oils is at the top. Yeah. That's going to be, the TV, the entertainment,
sure,
that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, the people that spend most of their time sitting and watching TV and being entertained by, the movies and the TV and stuff, that if they put that as a larger piece of the pyramid, see, I don't get that personally, because I really like doing the things I do in my life, and that I've made my life in a way that I do things I enjoy. It's work, but I do what I like to do. And I like, you can do that in your life too. If there's something that you want to do, believe in yourself, follow it, do it.
Yeah. But that's part of it too, is just the habit, getting rid of the habit loop of, I'm going to sit down and just unwind. Like, I had a hard day at work. I don't want to think about shit. Let me just veg out here on the couch and not think about anything for a while. Let this entertain me, that kind of thing. As opposed to, today was really hard. I'm going to bang out some breath work so I energize my mind, my body, my brain, reset myself, reset my hormones internally. And then from there, with new fresh eyes, then I'm going to do something that's good for me. Whether that's go for a walk, go for a hike, go for a run, go to the gym and bang out some weights, whatever it is, you know that you're going to do something good for yourself. And you've taken the steps necessary to change your outlook after that hard day, right? Because it is hard when you're dragging ass to kind of shift gears.
Sure.
But if you have little tools like breath work or meditation or even an ice bath, man, you do an ice bath for 3 minutes, you're going to step out of that thing alive like you've never been alive before.
Endorphins are there
through
for
the
you.
through the roof,
Right?
right? All kinds of energy and just ready to go about it. So actually, I want to talk about this thing I did down in Malibu with the XPT Life Group. So I'd heard about these guys when Wim Hoff, I got into Wim Hoff after listening to him on Rogan, episode 712, if you haven't heard of him. Phenomenal dude. They call him the Iceman. He's got over 20 world records doing stuff, feats of strength in the ice. Hiked Mount Everest in just shorts and boots, no shirt on. He's a bad dude, right? And his thing is, it's not me, it's the method. It's not me, it's the method. It's not like I have some freak genetic alteration that allows me to handle cold. It's that I've trained myself to do this, right? And so now he's got a lot of science backing what he does. When he came to the States, there were some big name athletes that wanted to work with him and wanted to develop something for the masses here stateside, and they wanted to do something that was, just take it a step further. So XPT Life got with Wim, and they worked on his breathwork training. They worked on a number of other breathwork modalities from yoga, like pranayama, breath of fire, different things like that. And they incorporated the cold with hot. They incorporated some underwater training for CO2 retention. They really just blew this thing up. And so I'd seen some of their events going on. It's Laird Hamilton, his wife Gabby Reese, and Brian McKenzie from CrossFit Endurance and Unbreakable Runner, and the three of them really put this thing together with Wim. And it's man, it blew my mind. I got to go down there for 3 days. Everything we did was more than I thought it would be, and I mean that in the sense of whether it was breath work. I learned more about breath work than I had in the past year. Whether it was, and I went deeper. I mean, I could feel like doing this breath work, I could feel a massive, massive charge in my hands. And it's just an amazing reset to have that ability to really charge yourself up and then be able to go and do whatever's next. But, take, for example, like our very first workout, we get in the pool. They've got a giant swimming pool at their house. We're at Laird's house, and we dive down 15 feet deep in the deep end with two 50-pound dumbbells.
Okay.
On day one, you got a farmer's walk it across on a held breath. Day one, I could only do one direction, get to the other side, swim to the top, get my breath, go back down, and take it back. By day three, I could go down and back, the length of the width of the pool, down and back on one held breath. So the body adapts quickly to things like this, but they were monster workouts. We were doing things like jump squats from the bottom of the pool with one dumbbell in between your legs. And you jump as hard as you can. And then right before you get to the top, you use your opposite arm to swim you up. And then only your mouth comes out of the water. One big breath in, and then you go back down. Exhale on the way up, one big breath, you go back down. 10 reps like that, 5 rounds of that. And that's one exercise of many that you're doing in this workout. So the workout's just absolutely brutal. Then you get out of that, you got 3 minutes in the cold tub. Cold tub's down to 33 degrees Fahrenheit, about 1 degree Celsius. And then right from the cold tub, 10 to 15 minutes in a 220 degree plus sauna. So you're getting heat shock proteins, all the benefits of the sauna. You're getting back in the ice. You're doing 3 rounds like that. I mean, it was absolute madness. And then after that, we go and do breath work for 15, 20 minutes. That's deeper than I've ever done before. And it feels like you didn't even work out. So these things exist, right? There are, these guys are pushing the envelope of how we train. And obviously in the bottom of a pool, I can jump as hard as I want and not worry about my landing. It's not like, doing box jumps or something like that, or jumping over, something on concrete and worried about how you land and getting hurt. I mean, there's a lot you can get away with in the pool because of its low impact. Gabby had a knee replacement. She was, an incredible pro volleyball player, a lot of wear and tear on the body. Laird, big wave surfer, one of the best of all time. He just had his ankle replaced, and these guys are crushing it in the pool, right? Because you can get away with this stuff in the pool. So, and that was just one aspect. They taught me how to stand up paddleboard.
Cool.
We went through a ton of different Metcons, like really hard work. Gabby's workout was the hardest by far. We had 12 stations, 3 minutes per station, 6 exercises per station, 30 seconds each. So nice. I'm sitting there trying to do the math, and I'm like, it's like a sprint. Like you're going as hard as you can for each exercise for 30 seconds, then you switch, but you keep going. Well, that's 3 minutes at each station. That's times 12. That's 48 minutes of going straight, balls to the wall, right? Yeah. Wow. And you get maybe 5 seconds before you get to the next one. So it was a grind. But then, of course, afterwards we do this breath work, and you're completely reset. Like you're calm, you feel good. Obviously, you need food and things like that. It's not like I could do these workouts back to back, but we were doing 2 or 3 of these during the day. And one of the most inspiring things was seeing Laird, who looks like Spicoli, Jeff Spicoli. He looks like Spicoli grew up and became like this badass pro athlete. I mean, he's ripped. He's got perfect blonde surfer hair, perfect smile, perfect tan. And his endurance is mind-boggling, especially not for his age, just period. Like they had a 130-pound Atlas stone. We had a beach workout, and we had to take this thing down 200 yards down the beach and back. and we were in teams, so we were passing it off to one another. My first trip, I got about 100 yards, which was really good, like compared to the rest of the group.
Sure.
And I'm not saying this to brag about myself. I'm saying this because Laird went way further than that, and he didn't get tired. So every time he had the rock, he kept going over 100 yards. Like, he was just a beast on every level, strength, endurance, the whole nine. And yeah, it's a really cool deal. So Outside Magazine came and filmed this for Outside TV. You'll have to check local listings and shit like that. I'm going to post on Twitter once they have the episodes up. But they filmed the whole thing for 3 days. I think they're going to have 5 episodes, and they're just going to show exactly what the experience is, and really just get into detail. They've got interviews with us, those kind of things. And there was about 10 people that were included in it, and then a number of other people. They opened it up to the public on day 3.
Oh, cool.
So they had like 50 plus people there doing these workouts and things like that. But yeah, it was just a fantastic experience. Everyone I met there was genuine as fuck. Just super, super intelligent, nice people, all working towards bettering themselves. And it was inspiring, man. It showed me different ways to train, but really it just showed me like, this is how you can grind. This is how you can put yourself through hell and then bring yourself back. Because work hard, whether it's your job, whether it's working out, that doesn't work. You got to have work hard, rest hard. You have to have that balance of yin and yang. You have to have that recovery period. And there's ways you can influence the recovery period. It's not like we were just hanging out in between workouts. We were putting in work, working in with the breath work. We were putting in work with the ice bath. And all these things were helping our body to recover and fuel itself faster.
So, say going between day 1 and day 2 with the ice bath, with the sauna, were you able to make it through day 2 after day 1 was killer, right? So you went through, you had this kick-ass workout, moving in different ways, water, all kinds of stuff. Going into day 2, would you say the ice bath was enough in terms of recovery to allow you to get through the 2 subsequent days after?
Well, I mean, everything was enough. Like we did the 3 days. They purposely ramped things up. So day 3 was Gabby's workout. That was the hardest. Our breath work got harder each day, but more in depth, I guess. So going deeper, not just from a breath work standpoint, but the recovery aspects of the breath work got more. We got more from it, and yeah, it's intelligently designed. It's not their first rodeo. They've done many of these. They do them out in Kauai, Maui, and different places.
Excellent.
So they go to beautiful places on earth to do these events. And yeah, I mean, there's your ability to recover is there because you're well fed, you're well taken care of, and you're doing everything possible for active recovery, aside from, say, getting like deep tissue massage or something like that. But really, I mean, we were working on mobility. We were working on, Kelly Starrett came down there and gave a speech on mobility. We were learning from so many people on so many different aspects that it pretty much covered all bases. So when you went to bed at night, I was falling asleep at 9 p.m. no problem, just completely spent, up at 6, ready to go, pounding coffee and doing the damn thing. There was no hesitation because it was exciting and ready to go for the next one.
And you mentioned the 3rd day was open to the public. In general, if people wanted to go and do this, could they? Is this a public thing that you can attend?
You can sign up. I believe the tickets are $5,000 a piece.
Wow.
So it's a little expensive, but for what you get, it's worth every penny. There's absolutely, I mean, it's life-changing, and it's all aspects of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's not just they're going to put you through grueling workouts. They've had multiple doctors come in and talk about diet, nutrition, lifestyle, mobility from Dr. Kelly Starrett. I mean, there's not a single stone they leave unturned when it comes to your health. It is the most intensive 3 days that I've ever done, but it was the most informative.
No stone was unturned because you carried all of them down the beach at 130 pounds apiece with a much older gentleman with cool surfer hair. Spicoli got all those stones.
Yeah.
He turned all of them for you.
Yeah, Laird was crushing it.
That's tremendous, man.
Yeah, it was incredible. So that was basically, I had ayahuasca, had done ayahuasca, and for the first time, and gained everything from that. Ayahuasca told you, we want to have another kid, so. We found out that it's going to be a girl, and I if people are kind of saying, well, how does that work out? My wife and I both had visions of us having a son prior to even talking about it. So it was kind of like the foot in the door. Obviously, we got to plant the seed and make it happen. But yeah, I think it's going to be a girl. So there's a lot there that's just positive and awesome and wonderful. And then go down and do the XPT event. And one of the things that I'd kind of gone over in the ayahuasca was I want to start a podcast, and I want to be able to share information and connect to great people and do things like we're doing right now. But I don't understand the technical aspect of it, and there's a lot to it. You got to learn, and it doesn't mean I couldn't immerse myself in it and put in the time to do that. But I really would just appreciate being connected to the right people and having a team to work with. And so I kind of just left it at that, like, hey, connect me to the right people. And so while I'm down in LA working with the XPT crew in Malibu, I get an email from the CEO of Brain FM. And Brain FM is a product that I've been using for over a year now. It's a phenomenal product. It's basically like binaural beats on steroids. They use computer-generated AI to change up the algorithm, to change up the tracks, and basically you're going to work on syncing your brain into a certain wave state, whether it's an alpha wave state for meditation, for creativity, a beta wave state for focus and concentration. And you can do this all within 10 minutes with some headphones.
And this is an app you can get on the iPhone right now.
I don't know if they've released the app yet. They've been developing the app for over a year, but if you go to www.brain.fm, you can use their product, I think, for a week to try it out, and then it's only like $4 a month. So it's worth every penny. Nice. It works. Right here. And yeah, so he hit me up after listening to me. I think the Singularity Bros podcast, I mentioned it because one of the questions was, hey, if you're not down with psychedelics or you don't have access, what are the things that you do to really reset yourself? And meditation is key. But for me, as well as a lot of other people, it's hard to sit and quiet your mind when you've got a lot to think about. But if I put on these headphones and listen to these tracks, I can get my mind in that meditative state and I could focus on the music. And it's so much easier to just let go and be still and get something from the meditation, right? So Brain FM has really been a huge catalyst for my meditation game and also for focus and different things as well, but really for meditation and napping. And I spoke about this on Singularity Bros as a way for people who aren't down with psychedelics to kind of get a piece of that stillness.
Sure.
And so they tweeted, hey, man, we've been using Brain FM. It's been awesome. Thanks for recommending it. I retweeted it, and then they started following me. Then Janad got my email, hit me up. He's like, hey, dude, let's meet in San Francisco. I got a business proposal for you. And we met up. He had heard me on Rogan and heard me on Singularity Bros and was just like, look, dude, we want to start a podcast. We want you to be the host. We'll handle all the technical aspects of it. Are you down? And I just kind of laughed, knowing like the synchronicities of it all. And we talked about psychedelics for quite some time. He's definitely a guy that's on the same page. So it fit perfectly. So we're going to bang out about 5 of these in October.
Beautiful.
We've already got our guests lined up. There's some fantastic people, on the list, Dennis McKenna being one of them. So we're going to have some great shows coming up, and hopefully by November, for sure by December, we'll have them out and ready to go with the Brain FM podcast.
Nice. Yeah. One of the great things of being in the Bay Area is MAPS is right there in Oakland.
Oh, yeah.
And I went through their entire sort of staff and, faculty or whatever list.
Rick Doblin, Brad Burgess. They got a laundry list of great guys all working with them, and women.
Absolutely, it is. Just start putting them out there. Just start getting them one by one in there. They've got a great team. They're doing tremendous work. So definitely.
Yeah, I want to hit up they got the psychedelic conference coming up in April. It's going to be in Oakland, and I think Duncan Trussell is speaking at it. So that's for sure on my bucket list of things to check out next year.
So I tried VR.
You did?
I did try. A friend of mine, one of my morning students, actually, he's a developer or like a software engineer for a social networking virtual reality space. And it's basically you're able to play games and interact and I guess collaborate and sort of your avatar as you walk around and you can do different stuff and play different kinds of games. And it was the graphics weren't insane, but it was very immersive. There was some feedback. You could feel things like you're able to pick up a hammer and pick up a thing. It would kind of vibrate as it would move, like you'd hit the hammer, and it was pretty cool. When you take the thing off, you're like, oh crap, which one's real? Like because it's it's a full headset thing, and then you have some kind of glove, I guess, as well, or like a stick.
So did you use the HTC Vive or did you use the Oculus?
I use both.
Okay. I heard Oculus doesn't have controllers yet, but they're making them.
I think that's the thing. And then I also
Duncan has the Vive, I believe, and that's the one that Rogan went over and was using the
Float
the
tank.
boxing app. No, they haven't done the float yet.
So that's what Duncan's working on.
Yeah. I'm really curious about this. And I've actually heard that there's a place in LA that's going to use VR for PTSD. So they can run a program where, and I don't know exactly how it would work, but there are certain triggers, obviously, with PTSD that can set people off and put them into a stressful situation, right?
Sure.
And it's not a disorder; it's post-traumatic stress. It's disorder is when something you're doing is incorrect. This is the very correct response to a traumatic experience is to have post-traumatic stress.
Well, didn't they call it disease at one point as well before it was disorder?
Yeah, and it's not. It's neither, right? So, but what are the implications for this? 22 soldiers a day commit suicide. 22 veterans a day, right?
Yep.
We lose more to suicide than any war, and there's no, the VA can't take it. There's just too much. There's nothing that we can really grasp onto this. But technologies like this are huge because they're non-drug related, right? And I'm not saying that there's certain plant-based medicines that wouldn't be of value for soldiers. And certainly with the work that Rick Doblin and MAPS are doing, I'm all about that. But I also feel like the VR way could be a tremendous way for people to get in there and have some deep healing and be able to recover from things that bothered them in the past. And I'm not sure exactly how the software and everything's going to work, whatever program they're going to run to make this happen. It might set some people off. Obviously, they have a lot to work on to get that dialed in, but it's cool to know that technology is going to take us there. It's going to take us in new directions where it's not just going to be somebody playing video games or some, fat sloth dressed as a hot chick as an avatar, flirting with guys so he feels wanted. You know what I'm saying? I mean, those are obviously going to exist, but we're also going to have some really positive things that come out of this as well. That not just for entertainment purposes, but for healing and quality of life purposes.
Yeah, I think the app I used on there was actually you're jumping out of a helicopter, you're about to go into some kind of battle. It was not the one you want for PTSD. It was not, and there was way too much motion at that point. That's when I bailed. I'm bad with any kind of Z. Is it called Z axis when you're playing the like Call of Duty game? And you look up.
Oh yeah.
That triggers my broccoli projectile vomit. Like I can't do it. I can sail. I can go fishing on the ocean. Anything like that. I'm not afraid of heights. I've done skydiving. I cannot play video games. And I can't do with whenever the guys look up or they look around.
Yeah, my wife did that, and she said that she was in like the underwater one, and she said she looked up and there was this giant whale above her, and just absolutely giant. But she said she was blown away, and her friend was doing a little video of her, and you can see her just look up and go, "Oh my God!" It's like right there, right? It's immersive, and that's the difference between what we've been exposed to thus far and what's coming is this full immersiveness of these other alternate worlds that we're creating.
You ever have a friend with a virtual boy? It was, I guess.
Is that the Nintendo?
Yeah.
I heard that was a total fail.
Oh, it was a piece of shit. It was, there was a couple of things like that over the years that came out. I say a friend because you're not an idiot and probably wouldn't have asked your old man or your mom for that.
Yeah. Please buy this, please.
No.
Well, I had a Power Glove. That was not
you had the Power Glove.
I had a Power Glove.
So my parents just wouldn't get me one. I wanted it, but it was a piece of shit.
It was a piece of shit.
I had worse. I had the U-Force. Have you seen it? Looked like half of a Battleship game, and you somehow moved your hands to play stuff. But they didn't make any games for it, and it didn't really work for Mario or anything else. So it was just useless.
Yeah.
Fucking the work.
Giant paperweight.
It was just terrible. It made no sense. I'm you're sliding your hand on this big touch surface to play Nintendo.
No bueno.
No, and the Nintendo's characters, they just go that way. So it was fucking dumb. Anyway, man, I've kept you very long. I think you've said plenty. I think you may have said it all. I'm not sure. We have to check.
Well, brother, I will definitely be back soon. And
awesome.
Yeah, right when we get this with Brain FM started with our own podcast, we'll definitely have to rehash and have you on ours, and I'll come back on yours, and we'll do it again, brother.
Absolutely. Plugs. Let's get them in.
Plugs. Follow me, Twitter at Kingsboo, Instagram at Kingsboo. Check out www.brain.fm and try it for free for a week. See how you like it. Use it with headphones. Don't use it, in your car stereo. It's not the same. You'll still get something from it, but really headphones are where it's at. If you're having trouble meditation, they've got 15 minutes unguided, 30 minutes guided. unguided. Then they have guided meditations that are around 18 to 22 minutes a piece. So it's a great way to learn how to meditate, and it's a great way to just reset yourself and feel better. So I love combining that stuff with breath work. Another shout out, WimHoffMethod.com. If any of these things that I've mentioned to you on breath work and cold training pique your interest, you can do it there. I bought the program. It's $200. It's a 10-week video course. So they'll walk you through week by week on how to incorporate these methods into your training, how to incorporate the cold therapy, and how to add in breath work with stretching. So if you're tight, which everyone is from sitting too long, then it's definitely worth the $200.
All right, that's it. Another episode in the books. Thank you, Kyle Kingsbury, for coming out. Sunnyvale, California, Clint Cronin Show, 2016.